Today you will enjoy my strong French accent while I will discuss with you the question of the legality of the European sanctions. You have probably heard about the termination of the contracts of the conductor Valery Gergiev because he refused to deny his loyalty toward his country. You have heard about the freezing of the assets, yacht and villa of Mr. Savchenko, Mr. Soloviev, Mr. Usmanov, Mr. Timchenko and Mr. Smoldachev, all of them in Italy. So while the question of the harassment and bullying against Mr. Valery Gergiev is of easy solution because it is a gross violation of basic human and workers' rights, for the other cases the question is more complex because we are speaking of a European sanction scheme. Precisely, we are speaking of a EU autonomous sanction. Those sanctions are taken in our case without, they are autonomous because without any decision of sanctions taken at the level of the Security Council of the United Nations. Europe has now around 35 sanction schemes against countries and so-called terrorist organizations. And while we can discuss the real efficiency of those sanctions, we cannot deny the disastrous collateral humanitarian and economic consequences of those sanctions, which are under the eyes of everyone. However, under European law, the sanctions must respect basic human rights and fundamental freedoms. It means due process, the right to a due process, and the right to legal remedies, rights that are sanctified by the European Charter of Fundamental Rights. So, what is the procedure? In our case, the European Council imposes sanctions through a common foreign and security policy council decision taken by the member states by unanimity. In the case of measures regarding the assets freezing of the exposé ban, we need a complementary regulation, another council regulation, which is obviously directly binding on individuals and companies in the European Union. What happened next? The European Council will notify individuals and companies that they are targeted by the sanctions and that they have the right to ask the Council to reconsider its decision or the right to challenge the decision of the Council before the General Court of the European Union. In most cases, the reason for the annulment by the General Court is the failure to specify the reason for why those individuals or those companies have been targeted, or to substantiate those reasons. In the cases we are talking about of those persons whose assets have been freezed in Italy, we are talking about a kind of sanction which is called status-based sanctions. It means that the Council, European Council, is taking the sanctions against those individuals only because we are speaking of prominent businessmen or member of family of the ruling elite. Only because the Council presume that because they are prominent businessmen or member of family elite, they are obviously supporting the policy of the country they are targeting by the sanctions. But the Council, and we should never forget and never assume that presumptions are equal to evidences. They are not the same. Because, for a person, a company, a group being targeted by the sanctions of the European Union, their normal economic life is suspended. And the economic life not only of them, but all the people relating to them because of their family or because of their business. And that concerns also European citizens. So it is not at all unreasonable to ask for the procedure to be absolutely perfect and the basic right to be respected. So I therefore strongly advise the individuals and the groups and the companies which are targeted by the new sanctions of the European Union, and if they think that there is no reason, absolutely no reason for them to be targeted, to challenge those decisions before the General Court of the European Union, and even to bring action for the damage they have suffered. So I realize it is a very complex question. I try to summarize, so I thank you very much for your attention, and if you have questions, feel free to come back to me and ask your question in the comments or sending me an email. Thank you again.